Jennifer Batten, bonjour.
Hello.
Merci d'être ici, chez Mirabelle TV.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Vous êtes connu pour avoir joué sur 3 tournées de Michael Jackson. Comment cela a-t-il commencé?
Gosh, I was playing in 6 or 7 different bands in Los Angeles, all different kinds of music, and I was just hoping for a big tour. I wanted to get on a big tour, and lucky enough, a friend of mine, I was teaching at Musicians Institute in Hollywood, and a friend of mine that was also teaching there heard about the Michael Jackson auditions for the Bad Tour in 1987, and I got to audition. There was about 100 guitar players that auditioned, so I didn't want to get my hopes up, and I finally got a call that Michael is interested and come down and play with the band, see how it goes.
Comment expliquez-vous ce choix? Pourquoi vous a-t-il choisi vous plutôt qu'un autre guitariste?
I think it's what I chose to play at the audition, and number one is I already knew how to play the Beat It solo that Van Halen did for him on the Thriller record. So that is the major reason he needed an electric guitar player. So I played that. They also asked me to play some funky kind of rhythm, and I had played in funk bands before, so I was able to do that. And I also went off and played some of my specialty technique, which is tapping with both hands, playing notes on the guitar. So that's, I never asked him why he chose me. I only guessed.
Vous êtes l'une des premières femmes guitaristes à jouer avec une telle virtuosité et à avoir intégré un groupe à l'époque.
Yeah, at the time it was rare, and I remember in interviews I did back in the 80s, I said, well, it's going to change very quickly. You'll see a lot more women playing, and it didn't change. Now it's 2012, and now it's just starting to change, with a guitar player like Orianthi, who played in the This Is It video with Michael. And also there's a couple of young 19, 20-year-old guitar players that are really good, you will hear about them in the next 10 years.
C'est une bonne nouvelle.
Yes, yeah, it's about time.
Quel effet cela fait-il de jouer devant des milliers de personnes?
It always felt very surreal, like I was transported into another realm.
Vous en rêviez?
Yeah. And also playing with Michael Jackson I was such a fan of his already, ever since his first solo record, Off the Wall, that to play with him in the band I had to pinch myself a lot. And the best part of the show for me is when we would play Billie Jean, and at the end, it was just him dancing and drums. So that's when I could sit back and I didn't have to worry about what I was playing. I would just sit back and go, I'm on stage with this talented guy. And it was just a real joy for me.
Et qu'avez-vous appris à ses côtés?
Well, working with him day to day, I realized what his personality was really like. He was a very hard worker, and he was like a little kid also, in that he wanted to wow people. He wanted to thrill the audience with special effects and new one-of-a-kind things, and he would get very excited about that sort of thing. And just his love of giving to the audience is something I picked up for myself. And all these years later, it has manifested in the project that I'm doing now, that I'm playing in France, which is my multimedia show. It's one thing to watch somebody play guitar, but even for me, watching a great guitar player, after 20 minutes, I want more. And so that's why I came up with the film idea. So I've always got something for people to watch. If they're tired of watching my fingers.
Capter l'attention?
Yeah. And even having the films, and I have some cartoons, all kinds of different films that are cut in sync to the beat of the music. I found that I could have even little kids that enjoy the show. that if they didn't have the film, the music would be over their heads. So it's you know, music is one thing, but entertainment takes it to another level.
Vous avez également joué avec Jeff Beck.
Yes.
Quelles étaient les différences entre Jeff Beck et Michael Jackson?
I think it's the best thing that you could hope for in a career is to have two big acts that are at the top of their game that are completely the opposite. With Michael, everything was choreographed. It was like a theater production with costume changes, pyrotechnics, lighting, all.
No improvisation.
Et pas d'improvisation.
Well, I was the only one that got to improvise. Yeah, I was very lucky because...
Il vous faisait confiance?
Yep. In working day and night, especially, he would just let me go. You know, he would close his eyes and he'd be doing this and encourage me, you know, to play. And every night I got to do what I wanted. With Jeff Beck, it's all about improvisation. And, you know, Michael wants consistency from night to night. He wants the sounds that people are used to hearing on the record. We spend a lot of time in programming sounds. And with Jeff, he wants it different. He wants something exciting, something to change, to inspire him to improvise differently from night to night. So it was, both of them were a challenge in very different ways. I tracked him down. I just wanted to meet him and get an autograph. And I knew when I was going on another Michael Jackson tour, in the Dangerous Tour in '92, I knew we were coming to England. So I asked everybody that was involved in Sony if they knew him or how I could get hooked up with him. And eventually somebody knew how to contact his management. And we invited him to a show at Wembley Stadium that we were doing. And of all the nights in the world, that was the night Michael canceled. So Jeff came to the show and he was turned away because the show was canceled. So I called him up and said, well, I don't know when they're going to make up the show, but can I meet you anyway? And he said, sure. So he let me come down to the studio that he was recording at, and I met him. I gave him a copy of my first CD, and I had also just been given copies of a video I did for MTV. So I gave him that, and I thought, great, I got my autograph. I'd probably never see him again. And he called me up a couple months later and said, I finally had a chance to listen to your record, and I want to play with you. And it was just like, wow.
The dream.
Le rêve devenait
Very
réalité.
much. Yeah. I mean, it was a dream I didn't even have because he had very rarely played with other guitar players. In fact, he hadn't done that since he was in the Yardbirds and played with Jimmy Page. He always had piano players, so I didn't even think about being in his band. So it was mind-blowing. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful learning experience and wonderful to get to know him and spend 3 years on the road with him.
Quand êtes-vous tombée amoureuse de la guitare?
I think I fell in love with the guitar probably when I saw the Beatles on TV.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was such an exciting thing. I mean, everybody in the town was into the Beatles. And shortly after that, my sister got a guitar. And then I was jealous because I wanted my own guitar. And so the next birthday or Christmas, after nagging my parents to get a guitar, my father bought me an electric guitar and bought me lessons right away. So I was 8 years old, and I learned how to read music, and that was the beginning.
And you
Vous jouiez tous les jours?
every day?
Yeah, I was pretty diligent with my
C'était
lessons.
difficile?
Well, when you're 8 years old, your attention span is about that long, and I would spend 30 minutes a day on my lesson, which for a young kid is great, you know. You know, years later it became an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, and then, God, at one point I was 8 or 10 hours a day doing nothing but playing guitar.
This is your
Voilà votre
last
dernier
CD?
album,
Yes.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Pouvez-vous nous en
Can
parler?
you speak about it?
Yeah, it's most of the songs that are in there were songs that I wrote while I was with Jeff Beck. So
On the road?
Sur la route?
No.
No.
It's very difficult to write on the road because you're always moving and there's not a lot of time. But I lived in London for quite a while when I was rehearsing with him, and I would write on the weekends and write, before rehearsals and after rehearsals. And this thing developed from a CD to a CD-DVD project. As I got into filmmaking, I added a lot of the films that I do in my show in that. I decided to do commentary on the videos. So there's a track of commentary you can listen to. And I also had some videos that I did a long time ago when my hair was big,
Oh, yeah.
back in the 80s.
It was your choice?
C'était votre choix?
The hair was
Yeah.
Michael's idea.
Yeah.
That was his creation, yeah. He really wanted me to stand out on stage, and he succeeded. So I've got some of those older videos. I did Flight of the Bumblebee, where I was covered in 150,000 bees while the music played. And I did a video for Respect that's on my first album. This is the first time people have seen that.
So
Quels sont
now,
vos projets
what are your
aujourd'hui?
projects?
I'm working on acoustic songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've got a new manager that wants me to go in a different direction. So my mind is wide open to anything right now. It's going to be a minimum of a year before I have anything new because I'm slow. And I'm on the road a lot. But yeah, there's always something new in the works. Plus, I have a band that will be premiering kind of a tribute to Michael Jackson starting at the end of the year. And it's going to be a big production with singers, dancers, and some special effects. It's going to be a lot more than just copying what Michael did. We're going to take all of our creativity, and for instance, there'll be a lot more guitar because I'm in charge. And we'll see what our minds can come up with. It'll be a little bit theater, a little bit pop opera. And we have a guy that looks so much like Michael and dances really well that it's going to blow people's minds. Because everybody I show the video to or photos of him to, they go, "That's not Michael?" I go, "Nope. His name is Carlo."
Merci
very
beaucoup.
much.
Thanks for having me.
And see you
Et on espère à
soon.
très bientôt.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
Mhm.
Thanks.